Former U.S. Labor Secretary Elaine Chao and her philanthropist father, James Chao. I spoke to them about their charity and their role in helping the United States and China work closer together, including their projects in China.
So we're going to China in October to open up 2 new kindergartens in Anhui province, where my late mother was born. So one kindergarten is called the Ruth Mulan Chu Chao Chi Li Kindergarten, and the other one is also called Ruth Mulan Chu Chao Kindergarten, but it's in Siyang in Anhui province. And then we're also celebrating the 20th anniversary of the kindergarten that my parents established 20 years ago, named after my grandfather, Yiren Kindergarten, outside of Shanghai.
You know way more details than the vast majority of us, but if you were sitting in a room with President Xi and President Obama and you had a chance to say something to them, what would you say?
I think this is the U.S.-China relations is one of the most important bilateral relationships in the world today. And this relationship will only continue to grow. It will ebb and flow, but it will only increase in interaction, in intensity, because of the geopolitical importance of both countries. And so it's very important that both countries try to understand each other. Being an American of Chinese descent, I understand very well the cultural differences, which sometimes impede and exacerbates the challenges of communicating with one another. So I think greater interaction between the countries, greater philanthropic exchanges, greater student exchanges, which both presidents have talked about. All these kinds of exchanges, greater trade, greater interaction between our 2 countries would be very beneficial to our better understanding one another.
Dr. Chao, let me ask you this. If you have the opportunity to solve one problem between the 2 countries, one problem, which problem would that be?
Well, understanding.
You want greater understanding.
That's the basic. Because people, very good people. Americans are very generous and enthusiastic. We only want a little bit reserved, but we also have very good heart. And from the beginning, our physical philosophy thinking is 世界大同. The whole world becomes a whole family.
I want to address the business side of things. When you were Secretary of Labor, you understand this very well, that for a lot of U.S. politicians, creating jobs in their home state is very, very important. At the same time, there's going to be some who will say, who are concerned that they don't want to lose jobs to other countries. What would you tell those Americans if you had a chance and they say, are we sure this is such a good idea? And what would you tell them?
I think the important thing to remember is that we are in a constantly changing world. And as the former Secretary of Labor, I was extremely concerned about employment, job opportunities for Americans. I think we need to grow the pie for both countries so that there are mutual opportunities for us to work with one another. If we view our relationship as a zero-sum game in which one gains and one loses, then I think that puts both countries on a very perilous and precarious path.
10 years from now, Dr. Chao, 10 years from now, and I'll address both of you very quickly. 10 years from now, what does the U.S.-China relationship look like, in your opinion?
I think it's getting closer, and in many aspects, especially high-tech. So far, they still have a little bit of difference, and difference is, but I don't want to huge, is kind of difference. But in 10 years, maybe in 20 years, I'm confident it will be closer and closer.
What message would you give to U.S. politicians, especially in Congress, when it comes to the U.S.-China relation? I know about the collaboration and the understanding, but there has to be something stronger that they need to do that they're not doing today, right?
I think more Americans need to travel overseas and go to China and see what China is like. And I think the Chinese are already coming over here to America. America is a wonderful place for Chinese tourism. We have beautiful, scenic, historic places here that I think a lot of Asian tourists would enjoy. So I would encourage tourism, and I would encourage greater interaction between our two countries at all levels of society and all across our economy.